back to my channel. My name's Livy, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of season 1 of Goosebumps. So this is going to be season 1 and also the specials back from the mid to late 90s of Goosebumps. So I wanted to do this because I grew up loving Goosebumps. It was a part of my childhood. My brother, who is 2 years older than me, always read the books, and then I was really into them, and I feel like it really helped shape who I was as a 90s kid. So I wanted to go ahead and rewatch them and rank them, my favorite of season 1 and the specials. And I think my plan is to go by season, watching them and then doing a ranking video for each season. So we will see how that plays out, but I wanted to make sure that I got season 1 out because I just watched it. It's fresh in my mind each episode, and I wanted to make sure that I can give a good review on each and kind of let you guys know why I ranked them in certain categories. So just to kind of go over what I'm wearing today, I am wearing my Haunted Mask shirt. This is the book cover. I actually got this from Five Below last Halloween, and obviously it was $5. I thought this was a really fun shirt, just this kind of Goosebumps purple with the cover of Haunted Mask. I also did a fun little Goosebumps eye today. Nothing too crazy, but I thought a little bit of that neon green on my eyes would be kind of fun. So I'm going to do a screen recording using a tier list, kind of walking you guys through what my different tiers are, why I've chosen those titles, and then we'll go one by one through each episode and put it in which category I think it fits best. So again, this is just my personal opinion. This is just how I know these episodes, whether I grew up with them and knew them really well, or ones I didn't know as well, and rewatching them, how I feel about them. So please take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, if you're a Goosebumps lover, you guys have certain episodes that you love the most. I just kind of wanted to give my own opinion, and I just love Goosebumps so much. Thank you, R.L. Stine, for making this series, for making these books, and then allowing it to turn into a specials and TV series. Because it's something that I still enjoy watching around Halloween time each year. And I've been just itching so much for spooky stuff recently that I was like, you know what? I want to watch Goosebumps. And then I was like, I could rank these. Okay. So here we go. Let me grab my handy dandy laptop. It'll be in my lap while I do this. And I will do a screen recording so you guys can see exactly where I'm ranking everything.
You will beware. You're in for a scare.
Okay, so here we have my tier list. I'm just using an app called capwing.com. I actually found this tier list that I've seen so many times on YouTube through another YouTube. A girl was just kind of promoting it. I had the link there. So you can go on and edit the different rankings that you want, upload media so that you can put in exactly what you need to rank. So here, let's just kind of go through my tiers. The first one is shaped my childhood. So these are going to be the different Goosebumps episodes that really are nostalgic for me. Ones that I remember super well, that used to scare the crap out of me when I was little, that made me fear things that I normally wouldn't. These are just the ones that really shaped my love for spooky and horror things. So that is the first category, pretty self-explanatory. It is the highest category, but these are kind of help shape who I am and help shape how I grew up. The next category is going to be gives me goosebumps. So these ones that are really great episodes, not necessarily in the top tier nostalgia list, but they are still episodes that I would love to rewatch, ones that I might go back to often, and they just give me the chilly willies. Next, I couldn't really think of a title for this category, and hopefully you guys can see these just fine. Let me make sure my brightness is all the way up. There we go. And it is I Can Dig It. So it's episodes that are good episodes. I enjoy them. They're not necessarily the ones I think of right away, but they're still episodes that I wouldn't mind rewatching. If they come up, I'm always going to watch them, and they're still really good, but they're not in the top 2 tiers. Oh, and then last but not least is going to be not my first choice. So R.L. Stine, amazing author. All these episodes are good, but these are going to be the ones that I don't necessarily go and reach for. These are the ones that if they come up, okay, I might keep it on, but they're definitely not the ones that I'm going to go choose. If it's my own choice, and and I can go and select which ones I want to watch. These ones are not going to be those. And there aren't too many that I know are going to go in that category, but there might be a few. So if you disagree with them, I am so sorry. Again, this is just my own opinion. But there were a couple rewatching that first season that I was like, but I don't really think this makes sense, or it just seems forced, maybe I think some of them are books that I haven't read, so maybe the adaptation's a little funny, but I'll kind of talk individually each one of those. So we'll get into all of that. I do have a list up here on my screen as well, in the order that each of the specials and episodes came out. So starting in 1995, near Halloween, October 27th of 95, is The Haunted Mask. So let me go through, and I should have put these in a way that I can just view them all easily, because they're kind of small, but we're gonna go ahead and start, like I said, with The Haunted Mask. And this one, iconic. There is only one place for me to put The Haunted Mask, and that is going to be in Shaped My Childhood. And I rewatched this again the other day, and I just can't get over how many different parts of this that I like. Poor Carly Beth being so traumatized. Those boys were so, what were their names, like Chuck and something, were so mean to her. Especially like the scene that I remember from my childhood being so gross, and I just felt so much pain for her, was when they put worms in her sandwich at like lunchtime on Halloween. I just remember thinking, like, this poor girl is so tortured by these guys. Like, I would totally react the way she reacts. And it's such a good storyline of how she goes into kind of the weird mask store, and she finds those masks in the back and ends up kind of stealing one and throwing the cash at the store owner, and not really knowing what she's gotten herself into. So I absolutely love this one. I remember being terrified when I was little when the mask starts to form to her face, and it's like, it feels like real skin. That's what her friend says. And she can't, like, where they try to look for where the neckline is, and she pulls down kind of her cape, and she's like, there's no separation between where my neck is and where the mask is. It's like part of her. And she looks in the mirror and says something like, those aren't my eyes anymore. So I just remember this one being so eerie to me, especially the like clay head that her mom makes for her, and where she buries it in a cemetery, and that's what ends up how she's able to remove the masks. All those masks start to float towards her, and she's like, no, this is me. Like, I'm not this mask. This is, who I am. And it was that act of love that kind of was able to release the mask from her whole body, and she was supposed to remember who she was. So this one I feel like has a lot like deeper of a storyline and meaning than other episodes. A lot of like self-love and confidence. And I mean, I feel so bad for Carly Beth. Like, everyone was so mean to her that she just kind of ended up being forced into feeling the way she was and getting that mask. But when she really realizes, to love yourself, that's when she's able to be released from the mask. So this is such a good episode. It has to go and Shape My Childhood. It really did. I love it so much. Another part that I always remember when I was little, and I still feel sad about it, is when she's like upset and she rips up the duck costume that her mom makes. And her mom was just so sweet and like made this duck costume for her for Halloween. And like, out of all her anger of being tortured, and everybody always scaring her, she rips it up because that's not what she wants to be for Halloween. And I just remember feeling so sad about that when I was little. And when I was rewatching, I was like, that still makes me sad. Like, her mom put all this effort into it, and it's not her mom's fault. So anyways, this one is definitely Shaped My Childhood. It's iconic, nostalgic. I love it so much. It'll always probably be one of my top ones. So, and with it being the first episode or special that came out, they did a really great job. I loved it. I know Haunted Mask 2 is in the next season, so I'll be reviewing that one in my next Goosebumps ranking episode. And that one's one I don't remember like at all. So I'll be really interested to see how that one goes and how it squares up to the original. Okay, next on our list is Cuckoo Clock of Doom. I guess if you say it correctly, it's Cuckoo Clock of Doom. I don't know, that's such a weird word. But this is one that I kind of lightly remembered. Let me find it. Here we go. This is one that I kind of lightly remembered when I was rewatching it. And the storyline goes something like, there's a boy, I think it's his 12th birthday, and his little sister is just a pain in the butt. Her name is Tara, and she's quite a few years younger than him, but at his birthday party, she like embarrasses him. She's always just getting in his way. She like trips him so he falls in the cake and all this other stuff. And he's like unhappy, being her big brother. His dad ends up getting a like cuckoo clock, this really big cuckoo clock, on the same day as his birthday. And he, I think later in the night, like touches it because they warn Tara, don't mess with this clock. It's very expensive antique. And so he kind of messes with it to pin it on her to make it look like she's done something bad. And the next day he wakes up and it's his birthday again. It starts repeating that same day, his 12th birthday. And he knows everything that's going on and nobody believes him, like that he's saying this is the same day. And he kind of predicts everything that's going to happen because obviously he just had that happen the day before. So it's a Groundhog Day situation. He then wakes up and it is 6 years previous. So it's like his 6th birthday and Tara's not alive yet. And he's a 6-year-old and he's trying to explain to his parents, like, something is wrong. I'm going back in time. There's something with the clock. They're like, oh, you're so silly. Like, it's your birthday. You're just hyper, And then he wakes up and he is a baby. So time is just starting to go in reverse. And somehow he is able to make his way with his parents to the antique store as a baby. They're like, we should go to that antique store. And he's just like goo and guy, like, yeah, we should. And so they go and he ends up like crawling up to the clock and like moving the little cuckoo bird again. And time goes back to normal and he's 12 years old again. The fun twist with this one, I guess I should have talked about the fun twist with Haunted Mask too, because I love the twist of Goosebumps at the end. That's like one of my favorite parts. Haunted Mask, at the end, she takes the mask off, hugs her mom, she's crying, and her little brother puts the mask on. And so it's kind of like a replay of like, oh my gosh, is this all gonna happen again? So another reason that one shaped my childhood. With this one, it's a little bit goofier of a twist, but essentially time goes back to normal where he's 12 years old and his parents are like, who's Tara? And he's like, I should probably go in the past and get her. Maybe I will one of these days. Like, so she hasn't been born yet. He's happy he's an only child. He might go back and get her. So I thought this is a really fun one. Like, I do enjoy this one. It's something, I don't know if I would go super out of my way to watch it, but I do like it enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in. I can dig it because I do like it. Not my first choice. I guess it's not in that one. It's not in not my first choice title. I do like it, but it's not up there with some of the other ones just because it's a little bit of a goofier story. Like, it is creepy, but it's not necessarily like Goosebumps creepy to me. Next, we have The Girl Who Cried Monster. And if you're watching this, by the way, I watched all of these on Netflix. Netflix, if you have a subscription, has, I think, all the seasons and specials right now. So if you're watching this on Netflix, that's actually the first one that shows up in season 1. So this was kind of the first one I rewatched to get me back into it. And sorry guys, this is my first time doing a tier ranking. Obviously, I could definitely improve. So The Girl Who Cried Monster, essentially this is about a young girl who goes to the library and ends up staying there a little bit later than she should have and finds out that her librarian is a monster. He like changes right before her eyes and he eats bugs and has these crazy like googly eyes. She runs home to tell her parents and they're like, we don't believe you. So she gets a camera to try to snapshot a picture of him. And while she's there the next day doing that, he sees her and she leaves her book bag. She runs home. He brings it home to her and he knows that she knows. So essentially the whole episode is her trying to convince her parents and her friend that, oh my God, our librarian's a monster. Her parents don't believe her and they invite him over for dinner one night. And the fun twist about this one is that this is going to have spoilers, by the way, guys. So if you haven't seen these episodes before and you want to see them, these definitely have spoilers. But the fun twist about this one is that their family is monsters. Her parents are monsters, and they can be the only monsters living in this town. And so they eat him. So it's really fun. And then her friend comes over and you think that they're going to eat him too. And they're like, no, we've got pie for dessert. So it's really fun and goofy. Like, I love the twist of like, they're the real monsters and they just like need to like be territorial. So this one goes up in with Gives Me Goosebumps. It's kind of a cheesy episode, but the twist makes it so worth it in the end, and I totally forgot about it. I like had an inkling when I was watching, then I was like, oh yeah, that is the twist. Like I forgot. So that one's so good. It gives me goosebumps. It didn't necessarily shape my childhood, but it's one that I love to watch. Next, we've got Welcome to Camp Nightmare. This one is a special, so it's a 2-part like haunted mask. And this one is weird for me. Throughout most of the episodes, the first and second, you know, the 2 parts of it, I am not a huge fan. But the ending makes it worth it for me. So it starts where this bus of school kids get dropped off, and the boys and girls get separated and have to go to their own camps. And throughout it, they think there's something in the woods that is like a werewolf type or some kind of weird creature. And it follows a boy. He's in the boys' camp. One boy gets bit by a snake. All of a sudden, he goes missing. Another 2 kids go to this like cabin that they're not supposed to, and they go missing. One of them goes missing, and then 2 boys like supposedly drown. And this boy's like, "What is happening? Why is the camp instructor not worried? Why are the counselors not worried?" And he's just like starting to be like, I'm gonna turn on everybody because this is too weird and nobody believes me. And he meets up at the cabin they're not supposed to go to, and actually finds one of the girls he had clicked with before that was at the girls' camp, and everybody in the boys' camp is like looking for her, and he doesn't give up her location or anything. He kind of turns on them and is like, this is weird, like, we are not going to shoot her. What is going on? And what ends up happening is, you know, everyone's like, this was a test, like you passed the test. And his parents come out, who are supposed to be on some trip, and they're like, we actually got chosen to be part of an experiment, and we needed the government to kind of test you to make sure we can be part of this. So all these kids are in on it. Everybody's actors, and we really appreciate your skill set and your bravery, and everything that you've done to try to keep everybody honest and do the right thing here. And it's a slow episode, but again, spoilers, the ending is he's like, Mom, Dad, what's the experiment? What are we doing? And they look up and they're like, we're going to go to a place called Earth. And he's like, I hope there's nothing weird there or something like that. And so that was the ending that I love. Like, it's not a great episode. At least for me, I feel like it's a little weird and goes kind of slow, but the ending is so iconic and so good. So I don't know where I'm going to put this one. Just because it's like, I don't love it, except for the ending that really makes me just like want to rewatch it. Because I'm like, yeah, it's such a good moment, all this build up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in. I can dig it, I think. Because I like it, it's good. But I mean, the ending is really what makes it good for me. Because I kind of remembered there was something weird at the end, and I couldn't remember exactly what it was. So that one made it like fun for me to watch again. Next, we've got Phantom of the Auditorium. Okay, let's talk about Phantom of the Auditorium. It is an interesting one. It's about a group of kids at school who are doing a play of the Phantom, pretty much Phantom of the Opera style. And all this weird stuff starts happening. They find like a trap door way underneath the stage, like underneath the basement of the auditorium. And they find kind of like a weird homeless guy or something. Like there's just a really weird interaction with that. And there's like a ghost telling them don't do this play, something bad will happen. And in the end, they end up doing the play. One kid gets blamed for like all the weird stuff happening, all the graffiti and things like that. And it wasn't him. It was actually this other kid who was supposed to be like moved to school. And he is the ghost that haunts the auditorium, who never got to do this play years ago. I think he like died tragically. And so he shows up in the middle of it. Everybody thinks it's like part of the play. But he shows up in the middle of it and kind of takes over and gets to live out his dream of being the Phantom. This one's okay. It's kind of dull for me. It's a little predictable. It's good. The good thing I like and the thing I forgot was that the new kid in school is actually the ghost, which is kind of fun. I'm going to put this one in not my first choice, which seems a little harsh. It's just, I don't find it that interesting throughout until the ending, but it's kind of predictable once you know in the end. You know, once you've seen it once, I think that's something you're going to remember. So It's a good one, you know, but it wouldn't be my first choice to watch. It's not something I'd go out and pick that episode probably again anytime soon. So I like it, but not a whole lot to say about that. P.S. Piano lessons can be murder. This one is so left field, guys. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the story of this is, and one thing I like about Goosebumps is they reuse a bunch of the kids. So the kid who plays, I'm pretty sure he plays Josh in Welcome to Dead House, which is a special from season 2. He is the star of this one, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. And him and his parents moved to a new house where there's an old piano, and he keeps seeing a ghost at the piano playing and like warning him that they're in danger. He starts piano lessons at a place called the Shriek School, which is like a really weird, super techie place. And his instructor's like, you have great hands, like really creepy and very weird. And what happens is essentially there's like a weird janitor, and he finds out that everybody who works there is all like animatronic and their hands are like playing pianos and stuff. And the janitor is somebody who like failed as a young pianist by the ghost that was instructing him, the ghost that now lives at Josh's house, or that kid's house. So it's hard to put together, but essentially the ghost shows up and defends the kid from being trapped in the school and having his hands removed to play piano super well. And the ghost like tortures this janitor guy who's actually like the robot instructor who's been like stealing children in people's hands. It's dense. I need to read this book. It's a good one. It's unique. I love that little actor. I think he's so good. So it's a weird one, but it's good. It's so left field, and it's one that I don't know if I've ever seen before. So I'm going to put it in Gives Me Goosebumps. It's not absolutely the best, but I do enjoy it, and it's something that like I think I would enjoy watching again. The ghost is kind of goofy, like the older woman ghost who's like the pianist instructor who tortures the janitor. She's interesting, and she's very like protective of the kid in this family, and you don't kind of know that throughout. So I would say that one's good. It gives me goosebumps. It didn't shape my childhood because I really don't remember seeing it, but I did enjoy rewatching it or watching it for the first time. Okay, next up we've got Return of the Mummy. This one I don't know if I've ever seen before, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I really don't know if I'd watch it again. It didn't feel like, I mean, it felt very removed from season 1. Like season 1 definitely has a lot of like one-off episodes, like Phantom of the Auditorium's kind of left field. There's one about a sponge that we'll get to that's a little left field. But Return of the Mummy is a kid is with his, I think it's his like uncle and cousin, somewhere I'm pretty sure like in Egypt or something, and they're looking for a tomb of like a prince or a king. And he has like this, the kid has this little like gift shop claw hand thing with him that's supposed to like summon spirits. He ends up dropping it. He falls into the tomb, drops it. This thing kind of like comes alive and brings up this mummy. At the same time, a like news reporter or journalist shows up who is like, oh, you guys found the tomb? That's really interesting. Can I come see it? And she is like the sister. She ends up being the sister of this mummy. So this mummy's returning, and he's like, no, let me sleep in peace. And she's like, why? And then the mummy ends up breaking like I think a necklace or something that she has, and that kind of seals them back in. It's a weird one. It's a little hard to follow, I'm not gonna lie. I loved the little mummy claw thing that kind of is supposed to summon spirits. That was really cool. Like I would love to have one of those. But this one was not my first choice. I feel like I'm ranking these really harshly, and I promise we'll get to ones where I will absolutely just be over the moon about. So this one was gonna go in, not my first choice. It is not my first choice. It was strange. I don't know if I'd ever actually seen it before. I'm sure I have. I feel like my brother had that book, but it just kind of was lackluster for me. It was like I didn't really understand. The plot was kind of strange and how it mapped out in like a 25-minute video episode. So not my first choice. This video is going to be super long, guys. Sorry. Okay. Next up, Night of the Living Dummy 2. So I wanted to do a little backstory, and I was like, is Night of the Living Dummy like a special? Like, is the first one a special? Come to find out, I'm sure if you're a huge Goosebumps fan, you probably already know this. they did not make a Night of the Living Dummy 1. Like, they didn't make the first book into a special or into episodes. And I just actually yesterday watched a quick little video on why not. And I guess they, at the time, it's not like they made an episode and decided not to air it. They were kind of figuring out what episodes would translate or what books would translate well into episodes. And that was one they decided not to do, which is really interesting. This one shaped my childhood. Let me actually find the picture of it. This shaped my childhood like none other. Slappy, and this Slappy does look different in this from the books. I know in the new Goosebumps movie, they make Slappy more to look like what the books are. I think he's got like dark hair and he's a little bit more slender. In this one, he is a ginger ventriloquist dummy, and he is scary as shit. Like, he, for me at least, even when I was little, I mean, when I was little, I was petrified of him. He just has such expression in his cheeks and eyebrows. And essentially there's like this dorky family that does like a family talent night each week. And the middle child, this girl, has a little ventriloquist dummy. His name is Dennis. And I think something like his head keeps falling off or something like that. And so her dad gets her a new dummy, and it happens to be Slappy. He comes in this weird, dummy box, and she ends up reading what's on the card, which is like a little voodoo spell to bring him to life. And he starts kind of tormenting her and the family. He drew on some pictures and stuff. And at the talent night, he starts speaking for her, and nobody believes her that he's alive. And eventually one night, he comes to life. He's like torturing the family. She tries to get rid of him. He comes back. The older sister realizes that he's alive. And everybody kind of sees what's going on. And she ends up slamming him against like the fireplace or something. He breaks his head open, and like the green spell, the spirit comes out. And one of the last scenes is like Dennis, the other ventriloquist dummy, says like, "Oh, thank goodness. Like, I'm happy to be back in the family." And the whole family's like, what the hell? So this one shaped my childhood 110%, made me petrified of dolls when I was little. There was a couple doll movies, including like Chucky and My Teacher Ate My Homework, that scared me. And Night of the Living Dummy 2 was a really big one as well, just to be able to put an idea in like this little creepy ventriloquist dummy that shows up and is just like, you can't get rid of him. Like, she threw him down a well and he came back. So used to scare me so bad. I was like, if I treat my dolls well or bad, even if they scare me, like, they're going to come back and haunt me. Like, I thought that. So that one shaped my childhood. I still am scared of ventriloquist dummies. They're so creepy. So yeah, that one is iconic, and I think it will always be iconic for me, and just the way it has stuck with me, and my fear is still kind of there. Next, my hairiest adventure. Okay, so this one's another left field one. What it is this kid like practices with his friends in this abandoned like house, this like garage that practices band. They're in this band with his friends. And there's like electricity in this garage still and stuff. And he's like, it's weird. These people just kind of disappeared. And they find this like tanning lotion that they all end up putting on, and he starts growing hair. And then his friend, that's a girl, starts missing, and their other friend starts missing. Then she starts missing, and the parents are like, forget about it. Don't worry. And this whole time he's had like really bad allergies his whole life, and like dogs have always chased him and stuff. And so you kind of get the idea like, oh, maybe he's a werewolf. Like, that's kind of, I feel like, what you'd be thinking as a viewer. But what ends up happening is he ends up turning into a dog. He's actually, it's kind of fun. He's the golden retriever in the beginning opening intro of Goosebumps. That is pulled from this, I'm pretty sure. It's so cute. I have a golden and I love golden. So, but he ends up being a golden retriever. And what happens is like the doctor that always came to see him was actually doing an experiment with all these parents trying to see if they could turn dogs into kids, and then they would eventually turn back. And next up, the last thing that happens is the doctor comes up with what used to be their cat, and it's a baby. So it's such a weird one. It's okay. I guess it probably would be not my first choice. I do love seeing the dogs and kind of that being in the intro. That's really fun. but this is probably going to be like not my first choice of one. It's so weird. There's a lot of focus on like the tanning lotion that this kid thinks that's why he's growing hair, and there's something weird about it. And the whole time it's just this experiment that his parents and this doctor have done. So it's kind of random. I might be interested in reading that book one and kind of see if it's any different, but probably not my first choice. It's okay. It's just a little obscure for me. Okay. Next up in the list, we've got Stay Out of the Basement. Guys, stay out of the basement. I can't. This is one of my all-time, oh, I guess this is just a picture. Okay, this one doesn't have the title on it, but if you've ever seen it, you know this is Stay Out of the Basement. This one shaped my childhood. Like, rewatching it, I just loved it even more. So what happens is, it's the beginning, this mom of the two kids goes to the airport. She has a conference or something to go to, and dad is in charge. Dad got laid off of his job as a botanist from the university like a few weeks or a few months prior, and he started to act really weird. So while mom is gone, he gets even weirder. Margaret sees him like have a cut and green stuff is coming out. He starts eating like plant food. There's like plants growing out of his head. One scene that really stuck with me was when she's hiding under his bed. She's like trying to get clues and find the number to like call her mom at this conference. Or her mom is, I think, with their aunt who is sick or something. There's a reason mom is gone. I think it's like a family member. But she can't find this number in her dad's bedroom, this phone number on this piece of paper, and she ends up hiding under the bed because he's coming, and he like worms are falling out of his comforter. So they find out what's going on in the basement. One of the guys from the university like visits their dad, and the guy goes missing. He like never returns home, and his wife leaves a voicemail on their phone saying like, where is he? And they end up they hear all these weird sounds. All these plants are like alive down in the basement. And they end up finding a like carbon copy of their dad stuck in a closet all tied up. And what happened, I guess, is that their dad like accidentally duped himself in a plant form. And that's what's been like walking around pretending to be their dad. So this one's so good. She ends up, in the beginning of it, she tells her mom, like, dad doesn't call me princess anymore. And she, at the end, when it's their two dads, you don't know which one's the plant copy or not, or her real dad. He's like, princess, please, kill the other one. And she sprays like weed killer on the one that ends up being the plant dad. 'Cause she's like, only dad would call me princess. So, it's a really good episode. This shaped my childhood so much. It made me like eked out about creepy basements and plants. Like, I'm not a huge houseplant person. And this episode probably has a reason to do with that, I guess. It's just weird. It's so obscure, but the dad in it, who's like the fake carbon copy, like the plant, is just mean and like creepy. He's like, stay out of the basement. Like, don't go in there. And throughout the episode, he gets way meaner. So such a good episode. The ending always gets me a little bit. It's where she's like, she's about to go inside with her and her family, and they walk inside, and she just like steps outside on one of the little planters to tie her shoe, and all these flowers start to talk to her, and they're like, Margaret, it's me, I'm your dad. And then the other flower like leans in, no, I'm your dad. And they all just start to talk, and it's just like creepy and so good. That one shaped my childhood. So nostalgic. I love that episode. I could rewatch it all the time. It's really, really good. Yes. If you haven't seen it, must watch. Okay. Next up, we've got It Came From Beneath the Sink. So kind of in line with plant stuff, I guess, or just weird things growing. The storyline of this one, I'm trying to remember. I only watched it a few days ago, but it's a little bit forgettable. Essentially a girl, they move into a house. It's always about like people are moving into a new house. That's something R.L. Stine like always does. But this family moves into a house. This girl like finds this weird sponge that has like teeth. Nobody in her family believes her. That's obviously another thing is like nobody ever believes the kids, like even the parents, friends and stuff. I think that's something that makes, side note, I think that's something that makes R.L. Stine's books so good is that like you feel isolated as a kid. Like people just don't believe kids. And there's such strange stories that they're like, yeah, there's no way that's even possibly true. That's what parents think. So it really, like, the kids feel like they're on their own trying to fight whatever this monster is or whatever. So I think that's really, he does that so well. He makes it feel so real. Like, people just don't believe children in crazy stories. So anyways, her family does not believe that the sponge is alive. She ends up bringing it to school where I think it like attacks her like science teacher or something like that. Her friends read up on it and say like, oh, it's this weird sponge creature. Once you've had it, it's stuck with you for life. And the way to kind of tame it down from growing bigger and eating things is to like play it happy music and happy thoughts and put it in a happy space, and it'll stay its tiny size. So that's essentially what happens. Is she's like, crap, the sponge is mine for life. So she puts in this like little box house thing that has like really happy flowers and music and everything, and she like says good morning to it every day. And the ending scene is that previously they had talked about, well, at least it's not this creature, which is like a potato with fangs or something. And her dog walks into her room and drops that off. And so she's now stuck with this other creature too. So this one is kind of fun. Again, it's like weird. It's goofy. I think I'm going to put it in I Can Dig It. It is good. It doesn't necessarily give me goosebumps. It's more cheesy, but it is kind of a fun one. This little sponge thing with like fangs that keeps growing and teeth is like, it's just goofy. It's literally like a sea sponge, but it's fun. So I can dig it. I like it. It was a good one. We're getting near the end, but next we have a young Ryan Gosling in Say Cheese and Die, and this is one that I remember from when I was younger. The storyline goes like this. Let me find it. There we go. Young Ryan Gosling right there, if you guys can't see through the fence. Him and his friends kind of break into this warehouse that's supposed to be demolished, and there's like this creepy guy that lives there, and so they're like, oh, good thing he's gonna be gone. And they kind of mess with his stuff, and Ryan Gosling ends up finding this camera that looks like kind of a weird like spaceship Polaroid camera. He takes a picture of his friend, and seconds later his friend starts to fall off of this like little ledge thing like up on the stairs. And when the picture comes out, it's Polaroid camera, it shows him falling, the kid falling. And Ryan Gosling's character is like, that's so weird, I took this before. He's like, oh no, you must have taken it like right when. So the creepy guy comes back to his, building or whatever. And so they run away, and Ryan Gosling ends up stealing the camera by accidentally forgetting to put it back. And he ends up taking a picture of his brother in front of their dad's new, like really cool car. And in the picture, the car is all smashed up. They go for a drive later that night, and they almost get in an accident, but it doesn't happen. But he's like, there's something wrong with this camera. And again, nobody believes him. So he ends up taking a picture of his friend, this girl. And in the picture, she's like leaning against a tree, and she's not in the photo. And later that day she goes missing, and she kind of just shows up randomly at night, and she's like, I don't even know where I was. Like, I don't remember anything. So essentially Ryan Gosling's like, whatever this camera prints out happens, and it's always bad stuff. And I'm trying to remember how it ends. I think they try to return the camera, and when they return it, they run into the creepy guy, and he's like, I made this camera, and whatever you take a picture of, it's always bad. Like, we have to keep it locked up. But he's like kind of being weird to them, and so they take his picture, and he gets stuck in the camera. And the last scene is where these two bullies show up in this building, this creepy building. And throughout the whole time, they kind of show up on the street throughout the episode and stuff. And they're like, oh, here's that camera. Okay, take my picture. And they release this creepy guy back out of the camera. So this one, cheesy, but I love it. Oh, how do I have two of these? It shaped my childhood. I just think it's so cool. I forgot to mention one of the scenes. I can't remember. I think Ryan Gosling's character is dreaming in this one, but he's like dreaming of a barbecue with his family out in their backyard, and he takes their picture on the camera, and they're all skeletons, but like have all their barbecue stuff with them. Like, I think their dad has like a chef hat or something like that, and their mom has hair and stuff, but they're all skeletons. And it's so 90s and so goofy, but still like kind of chilling. Like, it shaped my childhood. I always think of that, and I'm pretty sure that might be like the cover of the book or something where it's like skeleton people. So good though. Such a creepy camera and such a creepy like idea that a camera can show you what's going to happen and it's always going to be bad. So I really, really, really like this episode. I love the plot line of it. Okay, next we've got the special Night in Terror Tower. I just rewatched this one. I'll be honest, this one was a huge part of my childhood. I think my brother was obsessed with this one when we were younger. And I'm not sure how I feel about it because I remember liking it when I was little, but I don't necessarily love the concept of it. It doesn't feel very Goosebumpsy to me. These two kids are in like the Terror Tower in somewhere in like England or something, and they're getting a tour of it, and it's supposed to be like a torture tower back in the day where like a king and a prince, or a prince and a princess were taken, like a brother and sister, and they were like, nobody knows what happened, but you think they're kind of like they were killed and tortured there. And what happens is they get separated from the group that they're touring with, and this creepy guy shows up and pretty much takes them back in time to like the time of that. And he like thinks they're the prince and princess, this brother and sister duo, and the duo can't remember their parents from like recent times. They can't remember their last name, like all this weird stuff. And as they're kind of starting to be moved to be killed, they run into like the king's sorcerer, which is kind of like their babysitter, their nanny, and he's like, yeah, I sent you forward in the future so that you wouldn't be killed with these like special stones. And they end up like, the kid pickpockets the bad guy, steals the stones back, and the sorcerer sends all three of them back into the future, back to where with their tour group, so that they're safe again. And the sorcerer, like the good guy, comes back as their guardian as well in like present times. So it's kind of a weird one. The last scene is where the kid had stolen, like they only have 2 of the 3 magic stones, and they get back on the tour bus and they drive off, and the bad guy is back again. They're like executioner dude. So it's good. It's kind of weird. It's very like Renaissance-y times. It definitely shaped my childhood, but rewatching it, it's not necessarily one that I'm like, oh, the nostalgia of this. Like, it's just such a weird, like, kid in King Arthur's court kind of vibe. I'm going to put it in Gives Me Goosebumps. It's good. I do like it. It's, you know, not one that I'm like, this is so 90s, you know what I mean? So I do like it. It gives me goosebumps. It's a fun one, but it did shape my childhood, but to this day, like now, it's not one that I necessarily would be like, yeah. Okay, guys. Last on the list, we've got Werewolf of Fever Swamp. I already know where this one is going. Let me see if I can pull it up. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Oh, yeah, I already know this one's going and shaped my childhood. Loved this growing up. It's such a creepy, weird concept. So this family moves into like this rundown house in the swamplands near Fever Swamp. And their parents are, it's like a brother, sister, and, you know, obviously the 2 parents. And their parents are doing an experiment on how deer adapt to the swamp. And what happens is the main boy runs into this kid, and kind of when they play in the swamp, and this kid's like, yeah, there's, you know, he runs into this hermit, like this hermit turns into a werewolf. This kid has all these stories about how the swamp like gets to your brain and like boils your brain and everything and turns you really weird. And then like this werewolf hermit guy can get you. And so the boy runs back to his family, you know, and tells him all this stuff. In the meantime, they end up finding a dog, and the boy wants to keep the dog, but all of these animals start to like get kind of mutilated by something at night. The parents blame it on the dog, and the kid's like, no, that's the only reason we haven't been attacked by this werewolf. There's a werewolf in the swamp, you know? So the kid ends up trying to look. He hears all this weird howling. He looks in the swamp at night for his friend Will. He runs into a werewolf, and then the werewolf gets trapped in this net that previously the kid had been trapped in by the hermit, and the kid escaped. And then the hermit comes up, and so the kid's like, oh my gosh, the hermit's not the werewolf. Like, the werewolf has killed this hermit's family way back in the day. come to find out, Will and his family were the werewolves. So he had all these fun web of stories to tell, and it was really him. But the family like thinks that they've taken care of everything at the end, and they go to like check on their kid, you know, and the kid seems fine, but he ends up going out at night and howling at the moon. So he has been turned. Whatever happened in the swamp, he's a werewolf now. So that's kind of how it ends. This one shaped my childhood. Like, the kid's name is Grady in it, which is like a nod to The Shining, at least in my eyes. It's such a creepy, gross house that they live in. Like, there's a snake in the medicine cabinet once they first moved in. There is a like giant spider in the girl's like face moisture jar. Like, it's just so gross. And the swamp just looks disgusting. It looks like the bog of eternal stench. Like, it is so nasty. So that one definitely shaped my childhood. I absolutely loved it. And I still love it. It's such a weird concept, but really cool. Like, the idea of like a nasty swamp being able to boil your brain and make you go crazy and like turn you into a werewolf. Yes, please. 100% over and over again. So this does it for my lineup of season 1 and the specials from season 1 of Goosebumps, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was really fun to rewatch these and just reminisce, and I see that, I mean, we have like 5 that shaped my childhood, 3 that give me goosebumps, 3 that I can dig it, and 3 that might not be my first choice. So it's a great season. It's a really interesting how it was the first adaptation of the books. I'm really excited to jump into the second season. My all-time favorite is in that one. Well, probably tied with Haunted Mask, but we've got Welcome to Dead House in that one, and I still absolutely love watching this episode. I watch it like every year, so I'm super excited to jump into season 2. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Like I always say, we're a small community, but we are mighty. If you guys want to comment below what your favorite Goosebumps episode is, whether it's from season 1 or another season. And thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!